I'm James Barton. I'm the VP of Sales Development at Invoca. I've only been there for about a month, so I'm still new and getting my feet underneath me, but it's a great spot and a great team.
I'm curious what you're seeing as the go-to-market kind of strategy and play for the sales development team is right now. Kind of what's working, what's not, what's changed as you kind of are learning about the company.
Yeah, and as I get my feet underneath me, I'm getting up to speed on the platforms, the tech stack, process, model, people, but also the history behind not only that, but also how they're using all of that, especially the data and the platforms, to the best of their abilities. What gets you to where you are today is not going to get you where you're going to need to get to tomorrow. The teams are really positive and open, and their experience so far has been really, really great with using Orum. Now it's just we gotta crank things up a little bit in
Yeah.
order to keep that ball rolling.
And I know you've been obviously in the sales development world for a while. So were you familiar with Orum? Did you have previous experience with the platform before coming here?
Yeah, so I've had it hands-on with three teams.
Amazing.
One, it's been a really great resource because I've been doing this almost 20 years, both as a prospector, a prospecting seller, but also an SDR leader. And still to this day, the phone is the best tool, resource that a prospector has. So everything from the virtual sales floor, which is an amazing thing because you can eavesdrop. Like, back when I started back in the dark ages, you had to get a cord to plug into another cord to plug into the phone. You had to be in person in the office. But the real secret behind this is that the technology originated from somebody who used to be an SDR. Jason, the CEO, I've known for a while. I know a lot of people that worked with him back in his Rubric days. Something like this is just a superpower I think every SDR team needs to tap into.
With AI helping so many aspects of sales development, like where do you see the phone in that tech stack of all the different things we can do? Like, why do you think it still does matter so much for sales development?
Foundationally, every business is in the people business, and a lot of people are kind of beginning to get fatigued or kind of sick of interacting with a robot or a software. So it's almost like I hear these recordings from the team and hearing them live on the phone. It almost feels like the person answering the call is a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a real person. And SDRs, from another foundational perspective, they're relationship builders. And what's, obviously, if you can't do it in person, what's the next best thing to create real relationships and set the tone for the entire sales cycle? And that's the phone.
Yeah. Have you noticed any bottlenecks that the team is running into that you think the phone can help kind of break through and using Orum to kind of sort of supercharge that pipeline? Are there challenges or opportunities is a better word? Are there opportunities that you see that Orum can help solve for the team now?
I think so. So the nice thing about being part of a lot of teams over the years, and as a reluctant dialer myself back, 75 years ago, it's a little tough and it's scary to get on the phone at first. So if you have something that kind of already gives you an alley-oop, kind of like what AI does for prospectors as well, it kind of makes you a little bit less shy to get on the phone. The other thing that's interesting is that it's a lot more difficult to get people's phone numbers these days than ever before because of COVID pushing people out of the office and working from home and remotely. Those desk phones, those corporate phone numbers aren't as relevant anymore. So if you have the opportunity to get their direct dials or their mobile numbers, you need something that gets you in front of them as soon as possible, or as short of a distance as possible. And ultimately, it's about time. And if you're burning too much time trying to get the one thing that Orum can create a luxury for you to get to, why not?
We released this report about a month and a half ago, the State of Cold Calling report, where we looked at so much data. We basically analyzed all of the nearly 1 billion calls that have been made on our platform. And we found some really interesting stuff. Like you mentioned kind of calling into offices and it being a little bit different. And one of the things that I know people traditionally stay away from is admins, aka gatekeepers. And what we actually found is A, gatekeepers pick up the phone because it's their job to find out information. And B, when they do pick up the phone, they actually have a conversation 50% of the time. It's not just like who is this, wrong number, hang up. And it's sort of shifted how I'm thinking about talking about cold calling from like a multi-threading opportunity. As you're starting to build this muscle again with your team, are there different like ways to break into larger accounts using the phone? I would just kind of love to hear your thoughts on how you want your team to approach that type of organization, those larger organizations.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The rhetorical question I always challenge SDRs with is, can you answer the question, what does their buying process look like?
Mm-hmm.
And the larger the organization, or the longer the organization's been around, the more complex that reality is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into a scenario where it could be in some enterprise organizations upwards of 50 people involved in any buying cycle. So early days in my role at Invoca, I was on an enablement session with our amazing enablement leader who joined not too far back too.
Mm-hmm.
And the question came up, do we call the CFO? And the answer amongst the team is resoundingly no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, time out. This person can literally stop a sales cycle in its tracks,
Mm-hmm.
but you still need to get in touch with them to keep at least awareness rolling.
Yeah.
Because if it comes across their desk, they have to approve the budget. I mean, it's a great example. And I love admins because they typically know everything.
Yeah.
And they typically know everyone. And even back in my cold calling days, I would call admins on purpose. Like I would target them because it'd be like, so is this person in the office? Or is this person the right person? You don't need to pitch them either.
Yeah.
You just need to get pointed in the right direction and create a relationship. And if you have the right demeanor on the phone, that person can open every door.
Well, it's like it's like a fact finding like mission where if it's same thing with, we have all this data again, like individual contributors pick up the phone and they're willing to have a conversation with you because you're not going to call an account executive or a developer, whoever it might be, and say, I want to say this thing because you know they're not the decision maker. You're willing to have that conversation, and they'll talk to you and say, well, it's James who you want to talk to, and you say, okay, well that's great, but before I get there, can I ask you a few questions? Same thing with we found that C-suite, like the CEOs, answer the phone because people don't call them that often. They answer the phone more often than the VPs or CFOs who use the decision makers. And you can just, if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and saying like, yes, this is a cold call, but it's a well-researched one. Here's why I'm calling. I know you probably won't have anything to do with this, but because to your point, they can be those like progress stoppers if you don't talk to them or if they have any of that information. But with all that in mind, it's easy for me as a content brand person to say, talk to 7 people at the company before you book a meeting with your SDRs, your account executives, who I'm guessing, one of the things they are tracked on is meetings booked. Like, is that a tough justification when you're talking to them to say like, hey, you actually are probably gonna need to talk to 8 people before you book this meeting? Like, how do you kind of square that up with
That's a really good question because one of the things that you got to educate SDRs, BDRs on the fact is the buying process, right? Like somebody who could be the end user could have all the power in the final decision. They don't own the budget. They don't own, the department or the team, but they're going to be the one that's hands-on with the product every day, more so than everybody else. So they could have a lot of influence, especially if they've got a lot of experience doing it. They may not be the highest ranked person in the room, but they have the most amount of experience by far, even more than everybody else combined. So there's a lot of weight to that. So don't discount those roles. And quite frankly, if you have the right incentivized behaviors in place with an SDR model, making sure you're creating new relationships, that makes things a little bit easier. Kind of greases the wheels if you're asking them, it takes 6 to 8 people to really get a sales cycle identified and matured. It's a little bit easier that way. But at the same time, it is the kind of, I call it playing from the bench, right? So they're watching their sales rep counterparts in the field, advancing pipeline, closing deals. But this way, not only do they help to map out kind of the org chart for and with their sales reps, they tend to stay involved in the sales cycles a lot longer because of it too.
I'm curious how you guys are approaching coaching. Obviously, we have a ton of new AI coaching features. I'm curious if you had a chance to take a look at the Orum stuff yet, the different coaching features we have, but also just how you approach coaching with your team.
Coaching, I think, comes from three areas. One is eavesdropping, which I know Orum obviously offers with the virtual sales floor. So then you can give them tips, tricks, even real-time pointers of like, oh, don't say that, say this instead. The other thing is taking recordings, right? And obviously with legal reasons, there are certain recordings you can't take or whatever, but use real-time recordings not only of the individual SDRs and bring them to their one-on-ones, but also their teammates, right? Here's a great example of teammate number 2 had a very similar scenario and were able to overcome the objection. The last part is really AI. I mean, there's a lot of coaching tech out there, but I think with the resources that are out there, and I've just begun to scratch the surface of the Orum, to be honest. It frees up a lot of human being time.
Yeah.
Where while it's valuable, you can triple, if not quadruple, your efforts as a frontline leader with coaching. And then I'd say fourth one, not three, peer feedback.
Yeah.
So peer feedback will be received a lot more effectively, or an unbiased opinion. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I like the AI aspect. It's kind of like a virtual teammate that helps out in that category too.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the unbiased feedback. 'Cause that's one of the things we're most excited about with our coaching portal and our coaching suite is, you get an AI scorecard from every single call, and it's not an SDR manager who maybe has had a rough morning or has another coffee yet, or has just gotten done with 7 one-on-ones, and there's like, I don't know, this seems pretty good, James. That's good enough for us. It's like you get a scorecard, and here's exactly how you did, and the same thing with looking at this coaching hub where it's like
AI doesn't get meeting fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. AI doesn't get meeting fatigue, and it'll just kind of give you this snapshot every single week of like, here's what you should celebrate, here's what you should work on.
Yeah.
And then the role play, like AI role plays, they're tougher than cold calls on a lot of times. And like, I do love that unbiased aspect of it. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of the key to, there's always the fear in sales with AI. It's like, it's going to take our jobs, but it's like, no, if used correctly, it's done in a way that it gives you that time back. Like as a coach or a manager, if you have a team of 5, 10, 50 reps, you can actually coach them in a way where you're not pulling your hair out, and you can actually be a human being with them and take a moment.
And that's a really good point. The other side of the phone is what isn't really educated in a lot of cases for new SDRs, where if somebody commits to a meeting or commits to being a sales cycle and then commits to being a customer, those are all emotional moments for that person. So you want to create as positive of a customer experience as possible from the very first phone call.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a real human being doing that, you can feel somebody's emotions. Like I remember an old memory of mine, when I was an SDR last, I called somebody who just got done laying off thousands of people during the decline in the economy. No AI would be empathetic or sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's not a replacement. It's not a fear, but it's more of an alley-oop, I think, than anything else. So we're all kind of running a little bit faster with a lot of virtual.
Yeah. And you mentioned making cold calls 75 years ago. My first job out of college, my father he owned a State Farm insurance agency. My first job out of college, I had to cold call people to try and sell them life insurance. I was like, hey, do you want to buy this thing you'll never see the benefit of until you die? And then you just kind of hear like a dial tone. It's like, so, but at the same time, I would talk about like learning. I would, in the rare instances that I would book a meeting and they would come into the office, I would hear them talk to my dad, and they would say, like, he would basically tell them like, listen, this is peace of mind. Like, I'm not like, this is for your family, and like watching the interaction, even then 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
I do think it's the same thing now as like when you have a conversation with somebody and if you're good on the phone, and just by good, I mean like being human.
Yeah.
I love listening to our reps because they try to pinpoint the pains that the prospect has. And they'll be honest, like, maybe this is a fit, maybe it's not, but I want to kind of hear what is causing you guys' challenges. Like, how do you suggest to your reps that they approach that initial, couple of seconds on the phone? Because I always say you have to earn the next second.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you coach your reps to do that.
In a lot of ways, and it depends upon the time of the year, the territory, the segment, the person who is the SDR, their experience, the technology, the pace they like to run at, because usually I'll slow them down, or if they're going slow, I'm going to speed them up. There's a really famous quote that I love that my sister introduced me to is the progress starts the first step outside your comfort zone.
Oh, I like that.
So the to the point, everybody needs to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I do a lot of pre-game coaching before getting on the floor, so to speak. And it's really helpful. Be like, put yourself into their mindset, knowing you're not going to catch them at a good time. They might be having a bad day. Somebody may have kicked their dog this morning. You don't know. Back to your point. But be human. Approach them and recognize that there's a lot of people like us who are doing the role similarly that are coming at them all day, every day. And everybody can hide behind a keyboard. I call it keyboard bravery. Like, I sent 5,000 emails today. Did you get a meeting? No, but who cares? But that's part of the reason why I think while it's a little bit more scary and being on point, and especially when Orum like activates the call, you're like, oh, it's the anxiety that immediately kicks in.
Yes.
It's as long as you're prepping your team as much as you can, the psychology behind it, the goal. And ultimately, at the end of the day, none of us like being sold to. So why sound like somebody who's trying to sell something to them?
Yeah.
You're not going to make money off of them.
Yeah.
The seller is, but you're not.
Yeah. One of our reps explained why they love cold calling to me in this really interesting way. Like, they basically said, and this is why I've been a podcaster for a decade. It's why I love conversations like this. And it's really similar. He said, if I send an email, there's two possible responses. They reply or they don't.
Right.
Full stop.
Right.
He's like, if I pick up the phone and call you and you answer, there is an infinite amount of ways that conversation can go.
Yeah.
And I get to find the conversation route that we're going to go on. And it's why we love the AI coaching that we have, because it's continuous learning. It doesn't matter if you haven't made a phone call, a cold call, in however long it's been, or if it's our VP, Colin, who calls every single day and is like, it's like drinking water to him, like infinite possibilities.
It's funny you say that, because I was challenged a long time ago by an SDR to do cold calls with them back and forth, you make one, I'll make one kind of thing. And I got somebody live on the phone and I talked with them for about 3 minutes. It had nothing to do with the tech, nothing to do with anything other than what they're interested in taking a look at this coming weekend. And they're like, wait, what, where are you calling from again? Is this a sales call? I'm like, technically I'm not in sales, so I'm just trying to see if we can schedule some time to talk. So it was like that experience, and you replicate that with the technology and have the alley-oop from AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm jealous of the SDRs today.
Yeah. I got one more question for you. Sure. With the current space of sales and people, it feels to a lot of people trying to get into this space that it's very hard right now. It feels like there's less jobs, and it feels like you need to have a bunch of experiences to take in an entry level position. But I'm curious, what advice would you have for SDRs, BDRs who are just starting out right now in this moment? Like, what is the advice you would give them, or I suppose us 20 years ago?
Probably wrong. That's the first thing. It's like, there's this bias that we all have in our brains, and this is something I have to coach out of new hires, especially people who are coming in with a background in sales, marketing, whatever. Some of the best SDRs I've ever seen in my life weren't even college graduates. Yeah. Some of them were former recruiters. One of them used to sell me my cars. Like, it was, there is no cookie cutter template to what a good SDR, BDR is, but there's a ton of advice I could spit out. I don't think we have enough time for me to spit it all out, but be open, recognize every day is different. You're not always going to be right. You're going to have bad days, but the good days are going to come. Your leaders are in place, ask you to do things because it's proven to work. Yeah. And the real secret is understand the foundation of where you're at activity-wise to results at any given time. Like, for example, I was actually building a calculator before I got here for my team so they can understand the ratios of calls made, live calls that actually take place, emails, email responses to substantial commissionable results. So they have those levers to push and pull at any given time to know where they can need to be to get to where they want to get to, and then adjust for more difficult times of the year, like seasonality or when they go on vacation, those kind of things. And having a resource, and not to go back to it, be cheesy, but having something like Orum, and you can replicate your phone efforts that much more aggressively. I had a SDR once make 400 phone calls in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how'd you do that? He goes, I don't know, but I got 6 meetings out of it. I'm like, can you do that every day? He goes, probably not. But he caught up because he came back from vacation and he hit his number pretty quickly.
That's perfect. Thank you for giving me a headline too at the end there. That's awesome.